Hi, I'm Zach, and today I'm going to be discussing the South African AIDS crisis. So, most of you probably have little knowledge of the epidemics prevalent in African cultures. There are plenty of things in sub-Saharan Africa, for instance, poor government leaders, droughts, lack of food, unemployment, and just overall lots of poverty. Although the problems I just mentioned today are very troubling, I will be discussing the AIDS epidemic currently in South Africa, where the disease has wreaked the most havoc on its civilians. As you can see from the picture, there is a sign that says Know Your Status. The country has taken a big initiative to stop the spread of HIV. So I decided to do the extensive research on this topic, primarily because most people are unaware of this epidemic that is currently going on in South Africa. The country of South Africa, like I said, has the biggest problem with AIDS. Among its civilians, 7.1 million are afflicted with HIV, which is 19% of the population. Around 270,000 new infections arise each year, and 100,000 die from AIDS-related causes each year in South Africa. This infograph above depicts the percentages where the people are most impacted by AIDS. As you can see, South Africa is in the red, which is the most harsh of the chart. Alright, let's take a step back for a minute to look at the root of this problem. AIDS started around the time when modern birth control was first invented in the 1950s. As birth control rose in popularity, people everywhere started having unsafe sexual intercourse, feeling that there would be no problems because they did not need to worry about any unexpected pregnancies. This was not the case. Shortly after premarital intercourse became more widely accepted, this frenzy of widespread interaction led to more unprotected sex, which then caused HIV, then AIDS. The biggest prevention to this epidemic is protected sex, which is quite obvious, because if people use condoms more often, then the rate at which people were affected would be tremendously diminished. In South Africa, 1.34 billion USD is spent each year to combat the AIDS epidemic. The money is distributed to a variety of programs from testing to education. Other things the government has implemented to help its citizens is the 90-90-90 program. The program is a statistical goal which 90% of the infected are aware of their status, 90% of known positives start ARVs, and 90% of that group drive the amount of the virus in their bloodstream down to undetectable levels. This is a big aspiration for South Africa. It has really decreased the stigma of the disease, so more people are getting treated. They have almost met one portion of the goal, which is 86% of the population is aware of their current status with AIDS. This means that people are annually getting tested. The drugs which treat HIV used to be very expensive, costing about 5,000 USD, but has tremendously dropped to 100 USD, which has made the treatment for the afflicted much easier. South Africa is so badly hurt by diseases that itself receives the same amount of intensive care drugs as Asia and the Pacific, North America, and Western and Central Europe combined. Another scary thing about the AIDS epidemic is that children's parents who die from AIDS-related causes then become orphans. In 2012, Africa had an estimated 2.5 million orphans who also might lack relatives to live with, making this a very disturbing time in South Africa, and also a very disturbing fact. The international community has a lot on their hands and tries to do their best with helping out towards this epidemic. I believe this disease will be ridden eventually, but for sure, it will only take time. In the classroom in South Africa, children are continually being taught more and more about the truths and myths about HIV and knowing the risks about sex. As the population continues to receive the education about AIDS, the prevalence will significantly be decreased, and the population will be better off, and so will the country. Alright, this concludes my presentation on AIDS in South Africa. Hope you enjoyed tuning in. Thank you. Goodbye.